Good evening. It is the Tuesday, August 6, 2024 City Council meeting.
Can you move your mic closer?
Hard to hear. Sorry. May I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Here.
Councilmember Fahey?
Here.
Mayor Lay?
Here.
Councilmember Bierman?
Here.
Councilmember Hefner? Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Kern?
Okay, our first item is an executive session request on pending litigation under Louisville Charter, Section 5-2D. Consultation with attorney representing the city with respect to pending litigation and under CRS 24-6-402-4B for a conference with the city attorney for the purpose of legal advice on specific legal questions concerning pending litigation. City Attorney, will you introduce the agenda item and request?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As noted on the meeting agenda, I am requesting an executive session for the purpose of consultation with an attorney representing the city with respect to pending litigation pursuant to Section 5-2D of the city's Home Rule Charter and CRS Section 24-6-402-4B. Prior to entertaining any motion, the city clerk will read a statement required by the city code.
It is the policy of the city to conduct public business and meetings open to the public. While in executive session, it is inappropriate to take straw votes, keep minutes, or make any final decisions. It is the duty of each council member to ensure executive sessions are conducted in strict compliance with this ordinance, state and federal law, and any applicable provisions of the state and federal constitutions. If at any time the scope, nature, or parameter of this executive session goes beyond the publicly stated topic, it is the responsibility of the city council to terminate and cease any further deliberation within the executive session and return to the public meeting. Only those topics described in city ordinances may be discussed in an executive session. Those topics are summarized as follows. Where federal or state law requires the information being discussed remain confidential, certain personnel matters involving only employees directly appointed by the city council or other personnel matters upon request of the city manager or mayor, consideration of water rights and real property acquisitions and dispositions, but only as to appraisals, value estimates, and strategy, and legal consultation with an attorney representing the city with respect to pending litigation.
Regarding the authority for the executive session, Section 5-2D authorizes an executive session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation. An executive session for this purpose is also authorized by the Open Meetings Law, Section 24-6-402-4B of the Colorado Revised Statutes. This request involves discussion pertaining to the city's lawsuit filed regarding the Marshall Fire. With that, you may entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Okay. I would move to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and a personnel matter.
Sorry.
Excuse me. Pending litigation. And the executive session also include interim city manager Sema Fox, city attorney Kathleen Kelly, and litigation attorneys Tori Sherlin and Rob Chambers and their retained consultant Clinton Carmen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comment? Okay, roll call, please.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton? Yes. Councilmember Fahey?
Yes.
Mayor Lay?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Okay, motion pass it. We will adjourn to executive session. We are back from the executive session. City Attorney Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, as noted on the meeting agenda, the executive session was for the purpose of discussing pending litigation, and the City Council had such discussion. No action is requested of the Council at this time.
Very well, thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. The next item is approval of the agenda. There's going to be one item that we're going to table. It's not quite ready for prime time, which is item number 10D. And that is an ordinance amending Chapter 1518 030, the Louisville Municipal Code concerning the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, which is up for second reading, public hearing. And I think that I guess the question would be whether we include the EV ordinance in that too. I wasn't planning to. Do you have any thoughts, Rick?
I think they're separate in most ways. Happy to present on that this evening if you'd like.
Yeah. All right. So with that change, that is, we table Section 2D, I would move, but for that, as a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, with the exception of 10D, removing that from the agenda.
Okay. Do we have a second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Next item is public comments on items not on the agenda and items on the consent agenda. This is the time in the meeting where folks in the public can come and talk about just about anything that is not on the agenda or on the consent agenda. What you need to do is to come to the interim deputy city manager, who is also functioning as our clerk tonight, to provide a card. And the cards are right outside the door. If you would like to, if you're on Zoom and would like to make a public comment, you certainly can. Just raise your hand and you'll be called on in the order that our interim deputy city manager calls on. In these comments, try to be as civil as we can. We have really good fortune with that. Ask people not to clap or cheer or boo or anything like that. It makes it a little less enticing for others who we do want to hear from. We want to hear from anybody who wants to speak, to want to get up to the podium and talk. So if you do that, when you come up to the podium, please say your name and speak right into the microphone. Also, you can You speak for a total of 3 minutes. If you want to pool your time, you have to have a person either here or online who is willing to pool their time. You can talk for a total of 6 minutes. You do not have to talk for 3 minutes, and you do not have to talk for 6 if you're pooling. Talking for less than that is just fine too. So, do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda and items on the consent?
First card I have is Josh Cooperman, and he'll be followed by John Wilson.
Josh Cooperman. I live in Louisville. I would like to make a brief comment about consent. I don't know much about this program, but I read the staff report. All right. So this seems like a very valuable program for our small businesses. And clearly, with only 2 staff members on our economic vitality team, we cannot perform the sort of support that I assume this program provides for our businesses. That said, I'm a little mystified why we are increasing payments to this program by almost $21,000 from $50,000. I looked at the report on the previous year's activities, and I would say they don't really meet the targets. In particular, there was a sales tax target of increasing sales tax by $500,000, and the reported increase was $12,800, which is only 2.5% of the target. That said, the capital formulation was double the target. I don't know how that particularly impacts the city. But then there was also a target for 300 hours of consultation, and we only got about half of that. Now, I'm sure that's in part because people just didn't sign up for the consultation. And maybe, as it says in the staff report, there'll be more interest in the coming year, but it still seems worth questioning whether it's worth paying $20,000 more for these services that didn't seem to meet the target. I'm not saying we shouldn't have these services. It's not clear to me that we should be increasing our payment like that. So that's all. That's just my impression from reading the staff report. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Josh.
Next is Chief Wilson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, city staff. John Wilson, Louisville Fire Protection District. I'm here tonight just to let you know that my board last night passed a resolution opposing the statewide proposal 50 and 108. We all agree that property taxes have gone way out of hand. But these initiatives are not the way to correct those problems. This is a statewide problem. We have lots of tax increases on the Front Range, but our other state areas are even decreasing. So we hope that you'll do your homework. I'm sure you always do your homework before you vote, but we just hope that you'll look at it very closely and vote the way you think you should. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Others? No. Okay. Let's move to the consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? Okay. If not, can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. The next item is council informational comments on pertinent items not on the agenda. Councilmember Fahey.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have 2, congratulatory announcements that I'd like to make tonight. The first one is for Avista Hospital. They were just awarded, an international certification by the DNV healthcare system an advanced orthopedic and spine center of excellence. They are the first hospital in Colorado to receive this award and one of only 12 in the country. So well done, Avista. We're glad to have you part of the community. The other announcement I would like to do is one for what's currently called Juniper Village. It's a memory care facility up by Monarch High School. It originally was built and operated as Wellspring, also a memory care facility. I'm very familiar with that, as for about 4 years I was activity director at Wellspring. They are celebrating their 25th anniversary of being here in Louisville, providing wonderful care for any memory care residents. So thank you to both organizations.
Thank you. Are there other items that folks would like to mention? Good. I just mentioned we had a mayor's mid-year talk on Thursday night. It was well attended, a lot of questions. Stayed around till the end to answer a lot of questions. But I appreciate, as always, the engagement of the community. It's just, it never ceases to amaze me that folks might give up time going to a concert to come and hear the mayor, but I'll take it. All right, next item is, if I'm remembering, the city manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One item I want to highlight, we've got, and sorry about my voice tonight, we've got a pollinator mural out front that's just wrapped up. This is by Megan Moran of Strange Bird Designs. Should be finished tonight. We may be closing the street briefly for some touch-ups, but that street should be opened, and everyone go check out our celebration of being a bee city. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to items regular business. First of which is ordinance number 1881, series 2024, an ordinance approving the vacation of existing drainage easement located on lots 8 and 9 of the amended plat of Parkwood, filing number 2, first reading, to set the public hearing on August 20th, 2024. Can I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next is resolution number 33, series 2024, a resolution providing for the continuation of the amended declaration of stage 2 fire restrictions for the city of Louisville. Do we have a staff presentation on this?
Mayor, no, I don't believe we do have a staff presentation, but I did ask Director Cower to be here in case council has questions, as he supported last week in his acting city manager role.
Great. Director Cower?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Last Thursday, August 1st, after a long week of significant fire activity and significant drought reporting, being from moderate to extreme throughout the Front Range, Boulder County and the Boulder County Sheriff's issued a stage 2 fire restrictions. We as a city, through our protocols, quickly followed that act and adopted stage 2 fire restrictions through our local disaster declaration. That is good for 7 days. And so before you tonight is a resolution to extend the stage 2 fire restrictions for Louisville to support the Boulder County and other agencies in the Front Range around minimizing fire danger under the current conditions. We did make some edits to the Boulder County language to try to recognize ongoing Marshall Fire rebuild construction and welding that's taking place in certain areas around that and commercial properties, and also created a section so that we as a city can work in tandem with the Louisville Fire Protection District to create exceptions if other unintended consequences pop up. That kind of summarizes things, and I can open that up to questions for you.
Council questions? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Can you just help us understand if and when it expires, how it expires, what the process is for?
I can,
I have an update for that. So we do have the possibility of amending this if council would like tonight to have it run concurrently with the county so that when the county revoked their restrictions, ours would also.
I can speak to that. There was a draft of the resolution in the packet. If you look at section 1 of that, the portion that relates to the termination of that, I guess it's all in, I'll read the I'll read the section just because it's probably easier to do that. The City Council hereby finds and declares there to be a local disaster emergency in the city of Louisville to wit the occurrence of imminent threat of widespread or severe damage, injury, or loss of life or property that may result from the potential spread of the Boulder County fires to property located within the city of Louisville, requiring emergency action to avert danger or damage, and that this amended declaration of Stage 2 fire restrictions for the city of Louisville executed by the mayor of the city of Louisville on August 2, 2024 shall be continued. The old language in the packet is until terminated by resolution of the city council. That until terminated by the resolution of the city council has been edited with proposed language from city attorney until the Boulder County order is terminated, rescinded, or downgraded from Stage 2, at which time the city's declaration of Stage 2 fire restrictions shall terminate. So it's coterminous with the county's restriction. Does that answer your? Okay. Director Corr, do you have anything else? Okay. Are there other questions? Yes, Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Director Cower and our mayor, for moving so quickly on this item. I'd like to understand how we plan to get this information out to our residents, should this pass tonight. And then also, if it were to terminate or change because of Boulder County, how would we get that information out to them as well?
So thank you. We do plan to mirror the county's communication efforts, use social media and our traditional platforms to share these updates with our community, as well as updates if and when it's rescinded.
Do we have an email that is appropriate to use group for this communication?
We do have email lists that we can send updates to, such as this, if we would like to.
Thank you.
Suggest that, perhaps?
I mean, I think it's worth consideration. I've heard from multiple residents that while social media and our website is a good start, more is needed to make sure the community understands these restrictions. Thank you.
Councilmember Fahey.
Yeah, building on that, is there some way that we could also use the Boulder County alert system or the some other way to announce to everyone who signed up for emergency alerts that this is happening?
That alert system is maintained by the county, so we would certainly want them to be the ones who decide how and if that alert system is used, but we can certainly explore all of our communication options here.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kern.
First, I'd also like to thank Director Coer and the mayor for moving on this the same day that the county did. I really appreciate the fact that we're being aware of potential dangers when they occur in other parts of our county and realize that Louisville is also potentially at risk. So thank you for that. So the additional question on communication I have is, other than the public notices through email, which I think based on some of our previous emergent or urgent communications we realize are not quite sufficient for the community. There were a lot of people that didn't even get this notification I'm in a mixed household. I got it. My husband didn't. So that was kind of interesting. We're signed up for all the same alert emails, or at least we thought we were with the city. So again, if that's something that we can look into. But I was curious to know if we will be able to post this. Post the notice at the parks, post the notice at the trailheads, post the notice maybe at the rec center where a lot of people are recreating outdoors as well, since this is impactful to any outdoor space, to get the word out to people.
Yeah, I'll follow up with our communications teams on our options here, and I'll also make a plug on this item. I believe we have on council's agenda in August a follow-up conversation about communications in general, and so I think that's a great space to have more conversation about the needs of our community and how we can communicate best for our community.
Do we have a way of posting this outside, like at the trailheads and parks?
There are some spaces where we can post things publicly. We do have to be thoughtful about creating public spaces, so I'll certainly want to follow up with our team and understand what our opportunities are there, and I hear your desire to make sure that it is posted everywhere it can be.
Yes, if that is, and I'm maybe this isn't the question, as it is more of a statement. I think it's of the utmost urgency that a stage 2 fire notice be posted outside at the public locations where people could potentially cause harm to the public, to the open space. I'll make it as a statement then. Thank you.
One of the things that we didn't talk about tonight is, because it's not actually in the resolution, is what those prohibitions are. I'm actually, for those who are with us, I'm going to read through those about as quickly as I can, but I think they're mostly pretty brief. But it may be worth it to do this. Building, maintaining, attending, or using an open fire, campfire or stove fire. This includes charcoal barbecues and grills, coal and wood burning stoves and sheep herder stoves, and includes use in developed camping and picnic grounds. The exception is a device that uses pressurized fuel or gelled petroleum, stoves, grills, or lanterns, is equipped with a functional shutoff valve, is permitted and may be used in an area at least 3 feet or more from the flammable material, such as gases or pine needles. B, fireworks sales, use and possession, including otherwise legal fireworks. C, shooting or discharge of firearms for recreational purposes, except for hunting with a valid and current hunting license on public lands. D, smoking, except in an enclosed vehicle or building, a developed recreation site, or while stopped in an area at least 10 feet in diameter that is barred or cleared of all flammable materials. E, operating a chainsaw without a USDA or SAE approved spark arrestor properly installed in ineffective working order, chemical pressurized fire extinguisher kept with the operator, and 1 round point shovel with an overall length of at least 35 inches readily available for use. F, welding or operating acetylene or other torch with open flame is an exception, which one of our employees pointed out. Chad Root, I think, pointed this one out. The exception is welding can occur inside a building, or if outside, there must be 2 20-pound fire extinguishers on site, along with 4 5-gallon buckets of water on site next to the area where welding is occurring and fire watch protocols are taking place, with an extra person spotting the welder and watching where sparks are going. Welding shall take place in an area where combustible and flammable material, such as grasses and other natural vegetation, is greater than 25 feet away from what is being welded. G, using an explosive or doing any kind of blasting work. And H, possessing or using a motor vehicle off established roads, motorized trails, or established parking areas, except when parking in an area devoid of vegetation within 10 feet of the vehicle. So those are the prohibitions, and that, I think that document, our declaration, is posted on the website. Where? Do we know? Interim City Manager Fox.
I do believe it is posted on the website. It would take me a minute to find the specific link for you.
Okay. In any event, if it's not, it will be very shortly. Is there any other comment from staff or any questions from council? Okay. Are there comments from the public? I get it. Any questions? No questions, comments from the public? All right. Any other discussion from council? Okay. Is there a motion on resolution number 33?
I'll move.
Second. Oh, sorry, go ahead, you're going to read it?
Oh, I move to approve Resolution Number 33, Series 2024, a resolution providing for the continuation of the amended declaration of Stage 2 fire restrictions for the city of Louisville.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Actually, take that back. We have to do a roll call
Resolution.
for this one. Sorry.
Councilmember Kern?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Fahy?
Yes.
Mayor Lay?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bierman?
Yes.
And Mayor, if I may, it is posted on the front page of the website.
Very good. Resolution passes. Thank you very much on that, and thank you to our citizens for abiding by those restrictions. Really important for all of us right now. Good. Next is resolution number 34, Series 2024, a resolution approving a business assistance agreement with Dillon Companies, LLC, for an economic development project in the city of Louisville. Does anyone on council have any disclosures to make? Seeing none, ask for the staff presentation. You can take it away.
Great. Thanks for having me, Council. My name is Vanessa. I'm the Economic Vitality Manager, and I'm here today to present to you a business assistance package for a proposed new King Soopers marketplace on the McCaslin corridor. So to just give some background on King Soopers is one of about 20 flags that the brand Kroger has within the United States. King Soopers is the predominant brand in Colorado, and they have about 120 locations across the state. The project is proposing a King Soopers marketplace. So in addition to the grocer component of the shop, they will also have expanded services to include pharmacy, general merchandise, outdoor living products, electronics, and toys. This is the site in question where they are proposing to locate 1171 Dillon Road, right off the McCaslin corridor. The project intends to repurpose a former Lowe's big box on the corridor and add a fueling center as part of the project. The project anticipates, in addition to buying the property, a $15.7 million build out with an additional $10 million of fixtures and equipment on the inside. In addition, the facility intends to hire 75 full-time employees and 175 part-time employees. The proposed incentive for you today is a total package of $15,280,000, $15 million in a sales tax rebate, and $280 cap for components of their project to include a vacancy bonus, building permit fees, and signage. The time frame for this project would be, or for this incentive package would be 12 years. So the incentive package would expire at whichever comes first, either the total package monetary cap or the time frame in which we have listed. Something to highlight, all components of this project are rebate based, so the company has to perform, and from there they will get rebated back a portion of the new revenue and new fees that the project generates. This is hard to see, but wanted to highlight kind of how the sales tax sharing and breakdown would occur. In the city of Louisville, we have an effective tax rate of 3.775%. Of that, only 3% is eligible for a rebate. That other 0.775 are dedicated to open space, Parks, Historic Preservation, and the Rec Center. So this first open space tab is the open space and parks component, but we tried to highlight too that through this program, they will get, each of these buckets will get the full portion of their sales tax throughout the entirety of the program. And once the program terminates, we are proposing a 75% share back of that 3% that is eligible for rebate. That would result in the city keeping, to start, about $500,000 of new sales tax a year, in addition to the sales tax components for open space, historic preservation, and the recreation center. Once the agreement terminates, it is estimated that based on their projections, the city will have a net new about $4 million a year in revenue kept after the agreement terminates. To break down the large show into a smaller show, I kind of broke down what the building permit fees, construction use tax, and all the components of the incentive could look like. In addition to the 0.775 being kept with the sales tax portion, it'll also be kept within the building permit fees and construction use tax portions. So, or construction use tax and sign permits. So you can see that the portion on the right that the city retains is larger in those two categories because we will keep that 0.775 in addition to the half that we will get that's newly generated from the project. So at the end of 12 years, or when the agreement terms, it's anticipated that the applicant will have gotten a maximum of $15,280,000, and the city will have retained $15,280,000 as their cap, and the city will have retained $28,876,000, give or take. A component of this is everything is paid on true numbers, so we have estimates for what the building permit will cost and what the construction use tax will cost. We will reimburse at points of CO and from what they've actually paid for the project. So everything that is being rebated back to them, like I said, will be performance-based and will be rebated back to them based on the new funding that the project generated. A few other pieces that we wanted to touch on as well. There is no plan to close the South Boulder Road location. This will operate as a second location within the city of Louisville. In addition to the sales tax components that this is predominantly focused on, the city would also receive 15 cents from each bag sold at this new location as part of the bag tax. Their payroll for the 75 full-time employees, 175 part-time employees is anticipated at $6.75 million annually, and they have a planned opening middle to back half of 2026. Questions?
I'm going to start with one question. Can you go back, stop? Yeah, it's your last slide there. Okay. First bullet, this is something that, of course, a lot of people have asked, and be lovely to have in the agreement a clause that says the other store will never close, but we know that might be a little bit too much of an ask. But I'm interested in what you know, if you do, about any kind of cannibalization studies. Have to your knowledge, has King Soopers Kroger done those that you have heard of? I mean, obviously they have no plans is one thing, but I mean, do you have any?
So yes, for the projections too, for the sales for the new store, they have a third party do the projections so that they can see, as they take a step back, how the store would perform. Tangentially, I have spoken to some of my counterparts in other communities where they have had Kings open within a couple miles of each other, and they say it's actually helped relieve some of the burden off the first store because there are options now so that the first store feels a little bit better of like a shopping experience, a little bit less chaotic, even tangentially from what they've heard, and they said it's released some of the burden off the first store to have the second one. And they have not seen a sales tax dip.
Other questions of Vanessa? Yes.
So Vanessa, as I look at the chart, just curious why you're proposing a 12-year time frame when it looks like they're going to hit their 15 million in year 9. Is that just a buffer or?
It is a buffer. We typically, we structure quite a few incentives that way, so it gives them a little bit of a buffer in case their projections are a little bit off from what we all anticipate, that they still have the ability to capture that full gap needed to open the store.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Typically, we do a 50% rebate. Can you just speak to the decision to recommend a 75% rebate?
Sure. So when we have been working with the project to try to bring them to the location, the $15 million was the cap identified to make the project feasible and doable. And so in order to reach that cap, the 50% did not get us there for quite some time.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Hanley.
An extension of the question regarding cannibalization with the other King Soopers in town, has there also been a similar study regarding gas stations in close proximity to the one that's proposed here?
Not that I know of. Typically, gas stations do cluster, but we have not done a cannibalization study on the gas station.
Thank you.
Some of our questions, as you can tell, may not be. I know you're terrific at your job, Vanessa, but you may not have the primary information on this. I guess I would ask if the applicant, if we don't have any more questions of you, whether the applicant has any information to add, which I invite them to come forward and speak it. They may get some questions from us as a result.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nick Tompkins, King Soopers City Market and Smith's Real Estate Manager. And well, I want to say thank you to Vanessa for introducing the project and happy to answer any questions that we can.
Council, do you want to ask a question? I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about cannibalization?
Yeah, so we
And maybe you can define what that means. I didn't define what it means, but I know you can.
We know it, yeah. So that's, you know, essentially how much are we going to be taking from the current open King Soopers store? And I'll break it into two ways because it's just the two separate ways that Kroger looks at it between store and fuel. So for the store, our current Louisville store is store 13, which is important for Kroger. We go by store numbers, so store 13. We know from our data that shopping experience is right about on the edge of a point where it's not the shopping experience we want our customers to have. The store's getting very busy, which we love, and we appreciate every customer, but it is starting to get to a point that it's not just your neighborhood grocery store that you can breeze through. And so this store has been on our radar, store 13 being on our radar of needing some relief and needing a new store to come around and help. We have some information. I don't know if we can quite share it, but generally kind of what that'll do to the shopping experience. We believe it's going to improve it to a point where it's not going to make it a bad store. It's still going to be a very strong store for King Soopers, but to a point where it becomes the shopping experience we want. And then we have the much larger marketplace store down the road if that's something the customers are interested in. And so I think it's important that we, from our market strategy perspective and from how we want to take care of our customers, that in some way King Soopers has to help that customer. We have to figure out how to help their shopping experience, and this is, in earnest, our best way to do it for two reasons. One, we love our marketplace stores. They are very special. They're shiny. I shop at a marketplace, and I don't know that I could go not shop at a marketplace. I'm just kind of used to it. And two, I like that it's another location that's in the city of Louisville. So any cannibalization, it at least is retained within the city. And that really made this opportunity something that we keyed in on because it checks two boxes for us that feel very important. And then from the fuel perspective, fuel is just a different business. It's up, it's down, margins change 2 times a day. And so we don't actually calculate kind of how much we would take from competitors per se, but we calculate a total market volume, kind of an estimated how much is left. This is a very, very competitive fuel site. There's a number of competitors at the intersection. I personally believe it's going to do very well given Highway 36 running very closely, and then McCasland Boulevard is an exceptionally strong retail corridor. But I can say that our field team realized how much competition is there, and that this is not going to be a fuel center that's packed and 3 cars stacking out. It's going to be a fuel center that is there more to support the store, and that's something that we love. Fuel is very similar to pharmacy or produce. It's just a department to us, but it's an important department and one that our customers have come to expect.
Others? Council, any questions? Great. Thank you. Appreciate that, Nick.
Thank you all.
If we don't have any more questions for Vanessa, let's take public comment. Do we have any requests to publicly
First will
comment?
be Josh Cooperman, followed by Catherine Smith.
Josh Cooperman, I live in Louisville. I would welcome a King Soopers marketplace filling the vacant Lowe's in Louisville. Besides filling a vacant store, it would be an amenity for the neighborhood over there and the city and even neighboring municipalities. It would be a walkable, bikeable place for the CU development, as well as any housing that we eventually build west of McCasland. And it would be an additional tax base for the city, even though, as there's been some discussion around, it would displace some tax coming from other locations. So I would be happy to support the business assistance package with 2 suggestions and 1 condition. So first, my suggestions. I don't know if this is the most appropriate place to make them, but I'll make them anyway. First, I would like to echo a suggestion from Audrey DeBarros that she made in a letter, and that was to ask that King Soopers provide eco-passes for all of its employees. I think that would be a really good idea. The second one is basically to ask that they improve pedestrian and bicyclist connections to the site and also the infrastructure for pedestrians and bicyclists within the site. I think that would be very helpful. Now let me move on to the condition, which is the fueling station, as I'm sure you guessed. Ideally, the applicant would remove the fueling station from the development plans. If not, then I must request that the fueling station be excluded from the business assistance package. If we provide assistance to this fueling station, then we would be subsidizing new fossil fuel infrastructure, which is unconscionable in light of climate change. In any case, as best as I can determine, this fueling station is only permitted if you waive the 1,000-foot buffer requirement from nearby gas stations. The buffer requirement is intended to prevent any neighborhood from being overburdened by fueling stations. Given that there are 2 very nearby fueling stations, I would contend that a 3rd fueling station would overburden this neighborhood. Recall that this neighborhood is home to a preschool and may very well be home to housing in the near future. If an application comes to the city for such a fueling station, then I will oppose this application, and I will rally others to oppose it. In any case, since the thing at question tonight is the business assistance package, I really hope that you carve out the fueling station from that entirely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. Others?
Next is Catherine Smith, to be followed by Mark Cathcart.
Good evening. I share Josh's concern about the fueling station, and I wanted to put it in a somewhat different frame than he put it in. The location, first I wanted to talk about, we have US 36 on the one hand, We have existing fueling stations, and we're talking about adding a third. It's well known that highways produce enough small particulates that there should be a buffer between the highway and any residential housing. It's also well known that there should be a buffer between any gas stations and residences. So what we are talking about doing here is enabling businesses to significantly reduce the air quality in an area where there's an existing preschool and likely to be housing. I personally, after I researched it more, would not want to live downwind from one gas station, much less three. I do question the wisdom of subsidizing a gas station that actually contributes to air quality issues. Also, I want to note that gas stations produce ozone, and we live in an ozone non-attainment area. I would love to think that all 75 full-time and 125 part-time employees will be Louisville residents, but I think with our affordable housing issues, the number will be much less than that. I'm sure it will offer some employment. So I question the 50%, the 75% subsidy when 50% is more typical, given the cost-benefit analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Next is Mark Cathcart, to be followed by Susan Liu.
Hello, good evening. This is Mark Cathcart from Sweet Clover Lane in Louisville. I just have a secondary observation on the existing store 13, at least in so much as I've been able to ascertain. The agreement that you're making tonight is with Dillon Companies LLC. The existing store seems to be nothing to do with Dillon Companies LLC. So, while I'm like Josh Cooperman enthusiastic to see a new King Soopers market, based on at least my prior experience 10 years ago at H-E-B markets in Texas, I think this is somewhat of a hollow promise that they won't close down the existing store 13. I regularly shop at the existing store 13. I walk there 4 to 5 times a week. So I just wanted to make that observation. You're legally making a contract with a company that doesn't own, as far as I can see, the store that they're promising not to shut down. I would remind the City Council that there is an outstanding merger with Safeways. If that goes ahead, they have already committed to close down both the Louisville King Soopers, the Louisville Safeway, and the Safeway in Superior. So I just wanted to remind the City Council of that. And obviously, if they go ahead and shut down either of those stores, the offset by retaining the taxes in Louisville will be much less, not least because we're giving them a 12-year break, but also in the interim, one assumes they will have shut down both of those additional shops. So thank you very much, as always, for your time and listening to me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next.
Next is Susan Liu.
Hi, this is Susan Liu at 1020 Willow Place, and can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you, Sue.
I just want to say, I would urge the City Council to pass the package as proposed with the gas station. You know, it is really silly for a vocal few to think that nobody drives in Louisville. I use King Soopers gas stations because I shop at King Soopers and get fuel points. And unlike some, I don't cross the bridge and go over to Costco if I've got King Soopers gas points. So I would be delighted to see another King Soopers gas station. I also, for those of you who haven't shopped at a King Soopers marketplace, when I was displaced by the fire, I didn't have a choice and was shopping in Super's Marketplace. And they are fantastic stores with a lot more choice. And that gives you a better range in pricing. And I would just urge the council to pass the package as proposed, and let's get on the road and hopefully have a new King Soopers by the second quarter of 2026. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sue. Any others? Okay. Do we have, is there somebody raising? Yeah, please come to the, yeah. Typically,
Yeah, sorry, I didn't sign up for anything because I didn't know this was specifically about a King Soopers. Yeah, my wife and I had discussed.
Can you give your name and?
Oh, my name is Michael Perkins. I live at 229 Vulcan Street, Louisville. Yeah, we were hoping that a King Soopers would open up there. I am fully in favor of the fuel station. My wife and I have saved thousands of dollars over the years using King Soopers points to get discounts of up to $1 a gallon on fuel. And we've really enjoyed that benefit. I hope that they don't close the King Soopers they currently have. I don't believe that is included in the divestiture agreement for the acquisition of Safeway. It was only the Safeway that was on McCaslin that I recall. I just hope that the radii of the two stores' services don't overlap so much that they allow my closest King Soopers to close and have us have to drive all the way across town instead of 5 minutes, a 15-minute drive, which that would actually be the largest contributor of greenhouse gases, is just a longer trip. And I hope that the market can support both. And yeah, I'm fully in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. I actually want to ask the representative of King Soopers to come back up, and the antitrust litigation is complicated. It's but you heard what was said by Mr. Cathcart. Can you enlighten us about whether those statements are correct, or if they're not, what the reality is?
Yeah, so, and I get about one email a week on messaging and what we're supposed to say, what we're allowed to say, ongoing litigation. Just trying to make sure that we have the right notes out there. I think what I can say is the divestiture list, at least as proposed currently, is public and is in the news. So very fair for everyone to go look. But as part of the merger, Kroger has made a very strong commitment that the stores that are acquired but divested are not going to close. Instead, they're going to be sold to an operator called CNS, who has a long track record in the grocery industry, well capitalized, and in earnest, we expect them to be a true competitor for us. I'm trying not to get fired here. I don't want to say something. I'm going through emails in my head, but that there is no plan to close the divested locations. Those are planned to be operated through CNS, a separate company. And then as far as Store 13 up in northern Louisville, I have a call tomorrow with that landlord, and we're asking to commit to more lease term, and we've been working on that for about 18 years, so, or 18 months, sorry, 18 months. So we are really pushing to have both locations, and it's an area we want to commit to.
Understood. Appreciate your trying to walk that line. Other questions? Yeah, Councilmember Kern.
I think it goes to the point of, and I think it was Mr. Cathcart that brought it up as well, that the agreement, the BAP agreement is, and if you could clarify, is it with the same ownership of King Superstore number 13 or not?
Yeah, so Dillon Companies LLC, we call it DC LLC, is one of two kind of operating entities that we have in the state of Colorado, the other being Dillon Real Estate. So Dillon Companies LLC operates the vast majority of our 120 King Soopers locations, including the one up in Louisville. So it's the tenant, the owner there is the Kroenke Group, and then we're a tenant. So if you pull county assessor data, it's going to show Kroenke Group as owner, but we have a long-term lease with them and are hoping to make it longer.
Any not getting fired inkling as to how much longer you're trying to keep the other King Soopers there?
Well, our intent would be, and we still have to continue to run the business decisions, of course, but the proposal right now we have with them is a 10-year base term with 8 5-year options. So it would secure the location for King Soopers for the next 50 years.
Okay.
It's not 50 years that it's all base term, but I think it's a good statement of intent that we're trying to go out and get it as much as we can.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem. Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you all.
Let's move to council comments. Actually, I want to start with a reading of an ordinance because there was a comment earlier from Mr. Cooperman, which I think can be answered pretty clearly by the ordinance that is section 17.16.340, limitations on new gasoline and automobile service stations. The section under that is section E, and it says, any new gasoline or automobile service station shall be spaced from any existing or approved gasoline or automobile service station by a minimum of 1,000 feet as measured from the nearest point of each property boundary. This requirement may be waived if the proposed gasoline or automobile service station is approved through a new land use application for a single-use retail center of 80,000 or more square feet that includes a gasoline or automobile service station as an integral part of the retail center on the same or adjoining parcel. Are there comments from council? Council Pro Tem.
Yeah, very exciting. You know, I think Lowe's leaving that space is, you know, a big hit for our community and as far as a tax base and just an empty vacant building. So you know, it's been exciting to, you know, hear about potential things coming in there. But you know, hard to get a King Soopers marketplace. So really exciting to hear about the interest, and it's, you know, it's a long way from here to there. But you know, one of the reasons I asked about, you know, why the 75%. I mean, it's a lot, right? It's a big portion of it, and you know, as someone who, you know, is part of the decision making group of, you know, like what do you do to get a King Soopers market? What are you willing to give away to get a Costco? What are you willing to give away to get some big thing? And if you give it all away, then what did you get? And so what I wanted to point out for those of you who don't like spreadsheets as much as I do, in the current estimates, the first 5 years, we're expected to get about $1.8 million for our open space. Net, like we get to keep that $1.8 million over the first 5 years just for open space and parks. And then almost $500,000 in that same period of time for historic preservation. And again, more than $500,000 for our rec center tax. And that's, again, not rebatable, right? We get that 2.8 million straight away. And then in addition, another roughly, again, these are all just estimates, but in that first 5 years, 2.7 million into our general fund. And so we're doing a lot of things around budgets and trying to figure out, where to find money. So even with a pretty large rebate, we're in those rebate years looking at millions and millions of dollars for our community. And partially, like, speaking of the environmental impact of an additional gas station, that was a long, sort of contentious, difficult conversation we had about gas stations a year or two ago. And part of it was capping the total number of gas stations in Louisville. And two was carving out a gas station for something as big as a King Soopers marketplace, that we did not want to lose that. And we do understand, if my wife were here, she would tell you how very upset she is that these two things are linked, that a King Soopers marketplace has to come with a gas station. It's very, very frustrating in 2024 that's the business model that you all have right now. That's just frustrating for us. But I do understand, from a what's best for my community, a sense of, we added a gas station 100 feet away that doesn't have anywhere near the benefit to our community as a King Soopers marketplace will have. And so I think it's silly to have 3 gas stations. I really hope you guys could figure out a way to buy that gas station and make it a King Soopers gas station. And that would solve a lot of our problems. I'm sure they'd be very happy to sell it to you at a premium, and you guys would be able to use it right there, not have to build it, which would be nice for you guys too. Solve a lot of issues. But, I do think under our current rules, it would be a little bit odd to say, hey, we've got to carve out for a large grocer, and we have a cap of how many gas stations we can have. This fits both, but you can't do it. So I think it is frustrating for some of us that don't want to see more gas stations, but I don't see that as killing this over these next couple of years. And the income it's going to bring is great. I think and I just only have one other comment is on the cannibalization, and I think for sure, the Safeway and the King Soopers and other businesses that people go to are going to see a dip in their sales. That would make sense. There's not infinite money, but I think the Target across the highway and Costco across the highway is probably going to see a bigger impact, negative impact than even our stores. And then what we haven't talked about, because it's all kind of outside the edges of what we can control, is the external benefits of a marketplace that close, right? So people, I think, understand that. We had mentioned of the CU project moving forward and having that be there for them, but also just the other restaurants and stores and the empty Carrabba's, I don't think will be empty in 2026 if there's a King Soopers marketplace behind it. So that income isn't being considered in the impact, and right, so the whole McCaslin corridor is improved with a King Soopers marketplace. And so you guys aren't really presenting today, and Vanessa, you've done a great job getting us to this point. Thank you very much for that. But that's other things that just didn't get really brought up, is that those external impacts, positive impacts, along with the cannibalization. So if you're going to think about what we're going to lose, you should also think about what we're going to gain in increased interest in the area. So I'm in full support of it. I'm super excited for this potential, and I'll be supporting it, but I'm excited to hear other comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern.
Thank you. Also very excited about this project. But I first want to thank our staff. I mentioned this to Sama Fox earlier, but I wanted to thank the team who has been working with developers. You have actually listened to our community. You've listened to our residents. You look at the resident survey. They want to have economic prosperity improvements within our city. They would like buildings that are empty filled and, like a vitality in itself, like coming back to that whole McCaslin region. And they wanted to provide services for local Louisville residents. This hits the top 3 things that our residents are telling us they'd like us to say yes to. And I'm real big on listening to the residents and saying yes to what they want. So as my fellow council member said, I am very much in support of this project. It will save me from driving to Arvada, to your your marketplace in Arvada, which I will say I love very much, more than I actually thought that I would. So I already don't put my tax dollars at King Soopers number 13. Mine goes to Arvada. I'm super excited to bring them back into Louisville. So thank you for bringing this forward. And thank you to the residents for listening. And again, this is the kind of heavy lifting that we're asking of our city staff, working with developers, working with the business community, bringing things to us that we would really like to see improve our lifestyle in Louisville. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Yes, Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you. Pro Tem Dickinson and Councilmember Kern very nicely highlighted some of the items I was going to speak to. What I'll add on here is, I was going to ask this as a question, but I'll make a comment, and then one of you nod or shake your head what the answer is. But there were some comments brought up earlier about eco passes, connections to the site, buffers. My understanding is that isn't necessarily part of a BAP program, but those discussions are to be had later down the road when the development proceeds. I'm seeing nods. Okay. And so I agree with Councilmember Kern in the comment of, we heard loud and clear through recent citizen engagement the importance of economic vitality. And while we've never had a business assistance program package like this, a King Soopers marketplace could serve as a really important activation for this corridor. Therefore, I think something of this size is appropriate. The long-term gains for our community are substantial. And so I too am in support of this assistance program.
Thank you. Okay. Go ahead. You don't have to
Well,
say anything, but
I
if you
I
like.
3
you're
minutes. Do I
welcome.
get 3 minutes? No. I'm going to echo what my
No, you're done.
fellow council members said. I'm in full support. I do like Mayor Pro Tem's idea of, possibly purchasing that or, acquiring it, because again, I feel like I agree, but if it has to come with a gas station, that's a price that we have to pay, given all the positives. But I would really like to encourage you to explore that option. I'd appreciate that, but otherwise I fully support for the reasons that my esteemed colleagues shared.
I have, I guess, a couple of things. I would echo the comment about economic vitality. This is an absolutely central theme of what a lot of us who ran for council or me ran for mayor heard over and over and over and over again walking around Louisville, and I suspect the other candidates did too. So there aren't a lot of opportunities to attract businesses quite like this. Grocery stores are so unusual in so many ways because this is going to be a neighborhood grocery store for a lot of people. Yes, there's a Safeway there, but this is going to provide a lot more services, goods, and that I think it's going to be wonderful. I think it's going to be wonderful for activation. I think it's going to be a wonderful shot in the arm in our sales tax, which is obviously really important. I think it's terrific to see that you've got a substantial payroll. That's something we sometimes forget about here. We need businesses to employ people here. We really do. And this is a pretty labor-intensive operation. I don't share, I know there were comments about, I don't know, well, I'm not sure there were comments like this. I believe that there will be people who will use public transportation to get here, and it's a wonderful opportunity just very close to the BRT to be able to enable that. People from Boulder, people from other places, not just Boulder, but even further south that I think will get an opportunity to work among us. And that's really, that's going to make Louisville better, is to have people come in and be a part of our community and the workforce. I think that's great. So that's a really important thing for me. We lost a gas station to, not lost, but we went down one gas station just downtown here. So the net is not really adding any. But I think in terms of environmental impact, I harken back to a comment that was made earlier. There are a lot of people who won't need to drive or may not need to drive, and certainly won't need to drive much further. And that's going to make a difference. That is going to make it, in my view, I'm not an expert in this area, but I think it's going to make a substantial difference to then, driving all the way over to South Boulder Road. That's a hike. I do it all the time. I would go to this store and save some time, and I might just bike over there more often too. One final thing, which I can't say enough about. I appreciate the parties working extraordinarily fast. I don't need to out anybody's timelines, but I think that the applicant went way beyond their typical timeline, or way below their particular timeline, in getting to a place where they're willing to make putting in an application like this. The deal, as I understand it, is not quite done, but close. And they moved very fast, and the owner of the site likewise. This, for my purposes, kind of dropped out of the sky. We've been talking about this for years and years and years, and I know there have been prior discussions, nothing that came to fruition. And I have to say that our Director of Community Development, Rob Zaccaro, did an amazing job, and his staff, including Vanessa and others, at being responsive, making commitments that the city can meet in terms of getting whatever kinds of permitting and things going. They're just the kinds of changes that and performances that are exactly what we need in this to fulfill those goals that the citizens have. And it's a terrific, from the public side, excellent, from the private side, excellent, and I think it's going to do a great deal of good in our community. So with all that, I am going to support it. Any other comments before we move forward? Okay. I am going to move for the passage of resolution number 34, series 2024, resolution approving business assistance agreement with Dillon Companies LLC for an economic development project in the city of Louisville.
Second.
We take a roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Kern?
Yes.
Councilmember Fahey?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Lay?
Yes.
Councilmember Bierman?
Yes.
Congratulations. Bring it home, gentlemen and gentlewomen. Thanks again. All right. Let the room clear for a second. All right. The next item is item 10D, ordinance number 1877, series 2024, an ordinance amending Title 17 of the Louisville Municipal Code concerning electric vehicle charging infrastructure code. On for second reading, a public hearing, and advertised in the Daily Camera on July 14th, 2024. Going to open the public hearing and ask for a staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, Rob Zucchero, Community Development Director for the city. Got a slideshow here just to quickly go over the proposed ordinance. Just a little bit of background. Back in 2021, we adopted EV charging, minimum requirements for EV charging for a whole series of uses, and that was part of broader energy conservation code amendments that we made at that time. We kind of bundled that all together, and this table up here is what we adopted. So whether it's residential or different types of commercial development, we have a minimum number of installed, ready, and capable, and I'll go over those definitions in a bit. Based on the development, some developments probably have more demand than others, and that's so it's structured in a tiered way so that in any case, all new development or major redevelopments would have some minimum number of EV charging spaces within the development. Starting a couple years ago, council requested review of the codes, including the Energy Conservation Code and this EV charging code that we adopted in 21 and 22, to work with the development and business community to see if there were some things we could do to adjust those codes to make them a little more business friendly, if there were some feasibility issues with the codes and so forth. And so we did do that outreach through last year, and that's led to this code amendment. Some of the feedback we got from the business community was it would be great if we aligned with the Colorado Model Electric and Solar Ready Code that was adopted in June of last year. It really simplifies the different categories and has minimum numbers of spaces in an additional category. So they have installed, ready, capable, and capable light spaces. Overall, this proposal would provide, I'm going to say, less EV parking than our current code, depending on the category. But the EV capable light spaces is an addition to the, what we had before. So, but overall, depending on the category, there's probably a few less spaces, but it aligns with the state. It's going to align regionally with what a lot of people are doing. So from a business standpoint, it puts us in a more competitive position. So this is the proposal, is to go with these categories. So basically, all commercial buildings are grouped together, and where it says commercial buildings, non-R2 occupancies, that's multifamily. That's just a fancy way of saying multifamily residential. And then we have commercial buildings, and then residential buildings. So the categories are installed, and so that means it's a fully functional charging station. So when you see those percentages up there, you'd have to have a minimum of those number of spaces that are fully set up for charging. Ready means it's wired for charging, but the charger is not installed. Capable means there's a space reserved in the service panel so that you can put in a circuit breaker, and you have conduit, but it's not wired and none of the infrastructure's there. Capable light is conduit only, so the service panel doesn't have to have the capability. So if somebody was going to come back and retrofit that, they would have to potentially also upgrade their electrical service. So again, this pretty much, I think this, not pretty much, it does match the state code, and that's what staff's proposing, again, based on business community input. It wasn't to repeal the code, it was really just to align with the state code, make it a little more attainable. Here's a comparison. I tried to squeeze them on if you want to kind of look side by side how they compare. So I can go back to that slide if you want. Planning Commission did review this in February. They recommended approval with a handful of conditions. We've incorporated all those conditions into this draft, and staff's recommending approval as drafted. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any questions, Council, of the staff?
To the planning commission amendments, I read those. I think there's 4 of them. Is that right?
Right.
And you've incorporated all 4. There's not any sort of, you didn't get any. Obviously, I saw that the LSAB also recommended that those 4 be adopted. So you had planning commission wanting it and LSAB wanting it in a letter. I don't know at what point you received that. And then you put it all in. That seems like that went well. Is there any opposition to that? Is that, considered, it's going to be slightly different. Those will be the differences from the statewide rule, right?
So all the percentages are the same as the state model code. Their amendments didn't necessarily change the minimums within the state code. There were more clarification and, making sure the electrical panels were labeled with the reserve spaces. That's a best practice that wasn't explicitly called out. And that, there's flexibility if you overbuild, the installed, then they get, so I don't think there's anything that conflicts with the state.
So is
model
the
code.
one big difference that the state one does not require one space with less than 10 parking spots?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so we did add that as a minimum.
Okay.
Which was matched our code, but is above the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions from council? Okay. This is an ordinance, so there are 2 rounds of public comment. And we've got our first. Do we have anybody signed up?
Catherine Smith?
Thanks, Rob. I'm Catherine Smith. I live in Louisville. I really just have a question, which is I don't understand how this would apply to people who are renting properties and whether we're making it difficult for them to own electric vehicles or not. I mean, we might have it so that it's great for them. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Any other public comment? First round? Okay. Other council questions? I'm going to ask the one that Catherine Smith just asked. If there is an answer to that, please step up.
Sure, yeah, so for multifamily, the code provides that there is a minimum number of all of the categories of spaces are provided in a multifamily development. So if it's a very small multifamily development, there's a minimum of 1 of each of the types of spaces. If there's more than 10 parking spaces in an apartment building multifamily development, it goes by percentage of spaces provided. So there will be a provision. It's not a 1-for-1 in multifamily as it's written out. So if everybody in the multifamily owned an EV, this probably wouldn't provide their own space. But it is a start, incremental improvement in providing EV charging for those developments.
Director, is that just for reference, the chart, the percentages and so forth, is that the chart on page 365 of the packet, page 5 of the text of the ordinance?
Yes, I don't have the full packet up, but within the ordinance, it is the table in the ordinance that isn't stricken through, it's underlined. So it says commercial buildings, R2 occupancies, those are multifamily.
Okay, that is the same. Any other questions, council? Let's take a second round of public comment. Okay. Council comments, if you have any Councilmember Kern, go ahead.
Thank you. I actually appreciate the consideration in including LSAB and the Planning Commission and the fact that it does meet the state requirements. It matches, I should say, the state requirements. I think reducing confusion for our commercial community makes this a lot easier for them to move forward, especially when they're building in other places around the state as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I think it's great that we have EV requirements, and I'm glad that we're keeping them. We're not getting rid of them and adjusting them in a minor way. It is pretty similar. So I see this more, to your point, is making things more clear and obvious. So when you're developing, building in Broomfield or Denver or Louisville, you kind of know the rules, and they're not. Oh wait, what is it here? And I just know even like Biodesics, when they redid the Coles, that it's a lot of money to run these wires and create these spaces in these commercial areas that then don't tend to get utilized. So it's an anecdotal conversation from CEO of Biodesics. It's just like, this was so expensive and so difficult, and no one's ever using them because most people charge at their home and drive to work. Now, my wife is another good example of when she does drive all the way out to Aurora. Sometimes like, oh, I need to, and so at work she'll park and charge her car. So that's fantastic that it exists. But currently, what I like about our system and this new one, or the one we're considering changing to, is it does allow for, if these start getting used up, if they start being full, there are ready and capable spaces to add for that demand. And any business owner is going to look at that demand and be like, oh, okay, well, if it is really actually being used and useful, then we have the capacity. So I like that that part is built in for growth in the future, because I think we are obviously headed in the direction of electric vehicles more and more and more. So I think they'll be happy that they have some capabilities and readiness as well. So I'm satisfied with the compromise.
Councilmember Fahey.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what my former two councilmen have said. I think this is a wonderful idea. I think it's a great first step. I like the idea that it's consistent with the state requirements so that there isn't confusion about, oh, well, Louisville does this and Denver does this and whatever. So everyone knows what the requirements are. I like the idea of being at least a minimum requirement in new construction. Ideally, I would like to go further and make it a requirement for existing facilities, apartment complexes. And currently living in a hotel and I have an electric vehicle, it's challenging to keep it charged because they don't have charging stations at the hotel. So continuing on this way, this is a good first step. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. Why don't we, I support this. I think it's a good, well-done measure, and I appreciate the outreach and involvement of others. So I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion on ordinance number 1877?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 1877, Series 2024, an ordinance amending Title 17 of the Louisville Municipal Code concerning electric vehicle charging infrastructure code, second reading, public hearing today.
Second.
Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Mayor Lay?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Fahey?
Yes.
Councilmember Bierman?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Kern?
Yes.
Motion passes. I want to go back just a minute to the previous item because I think we need to probably, pardon me? Yes, just speak backwards here. Because I think we need to move to table this formally, so I'm going to do that. Do we do it? Well, are we good? And that's enough. All right.
I think that's fine.
Good. Well, then we don't need to do that. Okay, so the next is ordinance number 1878, series 2024, an ordinance exempting construction materials from the city's use tax for building permits issued for repair and reconstruction of fences, walls, and accessory structures that sustained fire, smoke, heat, water, ash, or other damage as a result of the Marshall Fire. This is on for second reading on the public hearing. And we open the public hearing and start with a presentation by Director Zaccaro.
Yes, thank you. So what's before you is an expansion of our use tax credit program for Marshall Fire rebuilding. There was a request to expand it to include things other than the residence itself. So we put together an ordinance that would expand it related to any rebuilding related to a home that had direct fire, smoke, or heat, water, ash, or other damage, as we've expanded the program in the past. Between first and second reading, we are proposing an amendment as well. The way it was drafted for first reading, it would only apply to a structure that was destroyed. So for example, if you had a retaining wall and it was destroyed and you had to rebuild it, then you would get a use tax credit for that. But if you, for some reason, the grading on your lot changed, which is happening a lot, then, and you had to get a permitted retaining wall, you wouldn't necessarily wouldn't apply as it was drafted for first reading. So we're recommending some changes based on some citizen input that would expand it. So that's in bold in the staff report as well as the second reading ordinance. So it does expand it to any structure that's part of that rebuild. And any structure that requires a building permit. Not all structures require a building permit, so anything that requires a building permit. For example, solar panels, we actually explicitly listed that. So solar panels or battery backup to those solar panels would be permitted, subject potentially to our use tax. So all of those structures, if this is adopted as written for second reading, would be eligible for the use tax credit. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yeah, Councilmember Kern.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Zaccaro. I really appreciate you bringing this. More than you know, actually. So I am curious to know under Section 1A, where it does mention the solar panels in bold as you're suggesting, and the accessories, it says relating to repair, rebuilding of homes that sustain smoke. So it's only the home that had to be impacted by the Marshall Fire. It doesn't mean that the solar panels had to be, correct?
That's correct. That's the purpose of those amendments. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Fahey.
Yes, does it also cover landscaping items like a sidewalk down the side of a house? Or?
It wouldn't, only because those aren't permitted. Those don't require a building permit, so we wouldn't collect the use tax for that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Oh, Member Tim.
We still collect the permit fees, right? We're not.
That's correct. We would collect.
We're only rebidding or
just the construction use tax.
Use tax, thank you.
If we don't have any other questions, let's take public comment, please. Again, this is an ordinance, so we got 2 rounds of public comment.
The first comment is from Doug Schofield, who will be followed by Tanya Samaru.
My name is Doug Schofield. The Marshall Fire not only destroyed our house and all our mementos from our family for years, but also destroyed a massive retaining wall. Massive in this case means over 400 feet long, involved 5 neighbors collectively, 17 feet high. And I think from our perspective, it also involved a replacement cost of $750,000, on which we paid $23,000 of taxes and fees. On top of all that, inaction by the city added another $30,000 of expense when the city refused our, I think, very reasonable request that we be able to store dirt for a mere 2 weeks during the construction of the wall. They refused that. It cost us $30,000 to truck the dirt out. So all of that has led to a severe hit on our savings, our retirement plans, everything. When you think of the magnitude of that, the trivial amount of that was covered by insurance. That was out of our pocket without insurance, basically. I think another part of it is that I compare what the town of Superior has done. Towns are in competition just the way companies are. Superior was much more proactive in issuing rebates. They took it a step further and didn't rebate just the tax. They also rebated half, or waived half of the permit fees. That may not sound like a big deal, but the permit fees in this case were a third of all the $23,000 we had to pay out for the privilege of rebuilding our wall. So in that context, I'm urging you to not only approve this proposed ordinance, but take it a step further and include rebating of the permit fees. A fee is still a tax. It's out of our pocket. Superior saw the difference. I urge you to see that difference too. So I urge you expand the proposed ordinance to include that. Finally, I ask that you make it easy. You know exactly how much money you collected from us. You know where we live. Send us the money back. Make it simple. No application, no great big review. Nothing like the state did with their rebate, where it took me 100 hours of arguing with them and 6 months just to get the money from them. Don't add that pain to the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tanya?
Hello, I'm Tanya Samaru of Louisville, actually. Sorry, I just found a monster leak in my attic, leaking all over right before I left. Anyway, just love building a new house. It's really great. I wanted to say, please pass this. This is really a lovely thing for fire survivors. There's a lot of reasons why people might not have included some of these things in their original build contract. Like the solar, I could have had my builder include my solar, but that would add 17% onto the cost of doing the solar. And I don't get much for him making the same phone call I could make. So let's see. I have heard stories of multiple people who have to build retainer walls that didn't need them before, as you've heard. Another family in my neighborhood, their retainer wall was, sorry, I'm still out of breath. I can't believe my attic is leaking. Okay. Anyway, another family in my neighborhood, their retainer wall was destroyed in the process of doing their landscaping, putting their house back together. And I think that a lot of us, probably about half of us, have discovered we're in the preemptive power down when Excel mitigates. So suddenly we want not just solar, but maybe some battery backup, and we're looking a lot more closely at that. Suddenly the solar farm net zero option isn't as appealing, so I will be doing that very shortly. So this is really a wonderful thing to do, to express your support for fire survivors. There's so many things that come up at the end of your project that you don't expect, like another $4,000 for drainage for my house. We all have drainage problems in Cornerstone. I'm about to spend another $1,000 on beefing up my sump pump. And every little bit really helps. So thank you so much. I hope you will pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Anyone else? Okay. Take it back to council. Any discussion? Any questions? Council Member Kern.
Thank you. Director Sakaro, can you explain to us what the plan is for the rebate process for people who have already, paid?
Yeah, so our rebate program requires that someone also self-certify by checking a box that they're underinsured, and that their original owners. So we do require some information on that. We've created for our other use tax programs an online form where somebody can submit the information, and then if they want a check, if they're doing it with the permit, they can get a credit on the permit, or if it's after the fact, or if they want, they can request a check be written to them. And so that's part of the application form as well. So it's an online form, and then we process that.
Is it also as simple as if somebody wanted to come in during the day to the planning department office here in City Hall, that they could fill the form out and request that?
We have a public computer where we can walk them through filling out the request. Because they have to certify the underinsurance, we do need them to fill it out and submit it as part of that certification.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Okay, let's go to a second round of public comments. You can make a comment even if you've talked before on second round, or if you haven't talked before, it's fine for you to talk now too. Oh, please, yeah, just, you can.
Okay. One more comment, which is that if you pass this ordinance, would you please take it a step further and make sure that fire survivors learn about it so they can avail themselves of this money? Because there's other use tax relief available, and fire survivors don't know about it, and they're not applying, I believe. And I've had a back and forth with city staff about our state use tax relief. It's really confusing to explain. You can apply for it, and then turns out a lot of our builders undervalued our homes on our permits. So you can do a use tax adjustment, and then you can do a second application. And the city advertised that you can adjust your permit valuation and said, you can pay for it if you like, and they didn't explain why you would do it. All the other jurisdictions explained this, but ours did not. So I actually have a lot to do with this bill. I helped write it, and I helped amend it, and I helped get it passed, and I care about it a lot. And I'm getting phone calls from people asking me, what is this? How does this use tax work? And people are very confused. And I've gone to the city staff and explained that. I did explain that to Sama, and she replied in an email to me, we've already explained it on these dates. Didn't reply to the substance of why it was confusing or incomplete information. So I don't really want, if a resident can't provide the feedback that something is not clear, I have a better idea. Let's grade the performance on all the use tax relief the city has. We have numbers on who's applied, and we basically have numbers on how many people are eligible to apply. I think Rob Zaccaros even said he did an analysis on how many people are eligible for that second bite of state use tax relief. So let's look at who's applied, how many people have applied. And if you pass this ordinance, can we say like every 2 months we look at the 4 types of use tax we could apply for and figure out how many people have not applied, and then maybe try to communicate to get them to do it? Because the only communications we get about some of this is through our recovery newsletter, which has stopped. So if there's an update, they push it out, and that's it. So maybe after this, we'll get one email saying this new use tax relief is available, and that's it. Boom. So if your house is still under construction, doesn't apply for you for 3 months, maybe you forget, and then you don't see another email. It's not a great way to do it. So let's set a performance metric for what percentage of fire survivors that are eligible for these things that we expect to apply, and then see how many of them apply. And if they haven't, then let's communicate it a little more. If that's okay, I would love if council would instruct city manager to provide some sense of accountability for that, because this stuff is so important to people, and there just isn't a lot of ways for people to get the information. So I want everyone to know, if you pass this, that goodwill and love is being shown to the community, and be grateful for it. But they can only do that if they know about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Any other public comment? Okay. Council, any other questions? If you've got comments, please do. Yeah.
I may have missed it, but there's no expiration of this, is there, Rob?
There is a deadline to apply. So I think it is the end of 2025, but let me confirm that by looking at the ordinance. Yeah, December 31st, 2025. So somebody would have to file their building permit application by that date. They can request the use tax after that date, but they have to have their building permit in by that date. It's about a year, little less than a year and a half from now.
I mean, is there any reason we can't extend it?
No, we could put whatever deadline. I think it's smart to have some deadline or end, but we can, whatever council desires, we can put in there. Our other use taxes do have expiration dates as well. I think this is the furthest out expiration date we have.
Okay.
Council may want to consider all the expiration dates if they're of concern.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Fahey.
Extending on that, is there a place that you have to prove that you're underinsured in order to get a rebate?
We haven't required that. We've just had a self-certify by checking the
Declaration.
box. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Councilmember Bierman. I really appreciate that. I missed the deadline date in there. If we could extend it, and if we can, as a council, discuss extending all of the deadlines to have that deadline only be a year and a half out. We have some people who have not even yet been able to submit a build permit, which means they probably won't even have a house for at least a year. Chances are not going to be able to submit for a fence for over a year and a half. So if we can, I think by putting this deadline on here, we're actually going to hurt the people who are probably in the greatest level of need in our community with the rebuild.
What do you suggest?
I actually suggest 2030 or 2028. Give people enough time. 2028, we do have a significant number of people who do not even have their permits submitted yet, which means realistically, they are 12 to 24 months before they even move back into a house, before they can even get a COO. So we're talking 2026. So if we say 2028, for the inclusion of this gives people time to find a solar provider or put their fences in, because a lot of people can't afford to build this house and have hundreds of thousands out of pocket and put in tens of thousands of solar and another tens of thousands in a fence when they are out of funding. They need time to find a way to even pay for these measures, and then to say to them, oh, you were the greatest in need, and by the way, you missed the tax rebates because you couldn't get to it fast enough. You should have taken a 7% loan out, seems like a punishment for no valuable reason. We have the ordinance. Staff did a great job in putting it together and wording it. It seems like a relatively simple rebate process at the time of permitting. Am I correct with that? For you? For your team?
Yes, I think it's relatively easy. It's very easy for us if they're getting the credit with the permit.
Perfect.
There's a little bit of work if we have to issue the check, but it's not a big issue for us at all to process those.
Then, since staff it's not a huge burden on our staff, if we could extend at a minimum to the end of 2028, I think that would be very helpful to our community members.
Thank you.
I don't know how we do this for all of them, but let's be consistent across the board.
I was going to get to that in a minute. I think one of the things that I think we should do just as a tickler is let's look at the other ones separately and see if we can't make them similar, or if there's some reason not to, right? But we can do that in one fell swoop. That's obviously an ordinance change, I think, too, right? So it's not something we can just do tonight, but I think putting it 2028, that makes good sense. Others?
Yeah, I mean, just to pile on, it doesn't change the criteria. It just gives people that are, it's an arbitrary deadline wherever we put it. Let's put it further out. These people have been through so much to miss a deadline because they've got so much other thing. It's silly. So I'm comfortable with the 2028 deadline or even beyond, I think.
This is maybe, again, kind of in the nature of, let's keep this in mind. I certainly believe we ought to publicize these as well as we possibly can. We've had challenges in making some of these, in some of the communications that we do. I think Ms. Summeru makes a good point of trying to set some kind of metrics. I'll leave that to staff, but it would be nice to be able to get the information in people's hands. I think also this is sort of a general, maybe a point about the deadline too, is if we can, 5 or 6 months before the deadline comes, remember to republicize that. I think I do that all the time in my law practice to make sure we don't miss deadlines and things like that. I bet everybody has those kinds of things set, and it would be nice to do that. We don't need to clutter up an ordinance with it, but I think it's still really important. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll actually say we had a cross-departmental team meet today to talk about the rebates and the opportunities, what the deadlines are, and making sure that we are communicating to those and finding who hasn't utilized them and communicate to them. So it's definitely on staff's radar, and we will do our best to get this news out and definitely hear the importance of including the why with these, so that people see that motivation.
Good. All right. Any other comments in council? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. No, you're done. Now, go ahead. I'll undo.
I can speak in favor of the motion.
Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to motion that we pass ordinance 1878, series 2024, the ordinance exempting construction materials from the city's use tax for building permits issued for repair and reconstruction of fences, walls, and accessory structures that sustained fire, smoke, heat, water, ash, or other damage as a result of the Marshall Fire.
Second.
Can I make a friendly amendment that we
Yes, please.
change the date in section 1C to December 31st, 2028?
Thank you. Yes, to December 31st, 2028.
Second.
All right. Let's take a roll call on the.
Can I speak
or
in
any
favor of the motion?
You can speak in favor of the motion.
Yeah, I want to point out, I'm in favor of it and I'll be voting for it, that we are down to 67 lots that have not either rebuilt or are under construction or have submitted their permits. So it's pretty remarkable that we're, 88% of our lots are sort of underway in some way, and just submitting a permit does not mean that you are, starting the construction necessarily. But with those 67 lots remaining, I think, a majority of those, my guess would be, are going to get sold and built by not the original owner. Like usually, that's typically what happens with the later builds. So they won't be eligible if they're not the original owner. But it's one of those things like no harm, no foul. Like why not the extending? I mean, I think everyone is in full support. I don't care that much about the date, extending it to 2028 or 21, 28. The idea is that there's a certain way, ability to qualify, and in the future, we just don't want to extend it so far that we're getting people building their second or third fence. Like some people finish their home in 2022, and so if you extend it to too much farther, that starts to defeat the purpose. But happy to be voting for it and excited about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'll say this. I wouldn't mind if people made building of a second fence if the second fence is metal. That strikes me as a very good sort of thing. But I take your point. All right, so let's get a roll call, please.
Councilmember Kern?
Yes.
Councilmember Fahey?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bierman?
Yes.
Mayor Lay?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion passes. I tell you what, it is 8:15. Let's take 5 minutes, 8:20, and give people a break here. go back on. The next item is the third replat of the enclave and easement vacation to adjust the location of the lot line between 1147 and 1149 West Enclave. We have an ordinance, number 1879, Series 2024, an ordinance approving the vacation of an existing drainage easement located on lots 3 and 4, Block 1 of the Enclave replat, and a resolution, number 35, Series 2024, resolution approving the third replat of the Enclave and easement vacation. We're opening a public hearing and starting with a staff presentation. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, council members. This application is essentially a request to adjust the location of a lot line between two properties. Let me get there we go. But it's reviewed through the minor subdivision process. So this is in the Enclave subdivision. Both of the lots, the homes and the lots were destroyed in the Marshall Fire. The request is to move the lot line, which is shown up in yellow on the screen, down to the location that's shown on red. There's no additional lots are being proposed or anything. It's really just effectively the movement of that lot line and then the associated easements with it. The applicant is here tonight if you do have questions about this, but basically the reasoning is related to solar access on the property and then also some of the drainage issues that they had originally on the north side of the property. There is one modification that is part of the application. Otherwise, it meets all the Title 16 subdivision requirements. It does not, staff doesn't find that this impacts the comprehensive plan or any other adopted policies since it's not really a change in density. Both lots do support a single-family dwelling. We checked that they would be able to meet the zoning even with the move. The north property has already been rebuilt. The property on the south is currently vacant, but again, can meet the zoning standards. And then also just to note that there is a lot size requirement in the Enclave subdivision, and both lots do meet that requirement as well. And finally, this easement vacation, it just moves the existing drainage easements to run parallel to the proposed lot line. There aren't any changes in the size or the alignment. In terms of the modification itself, it's basically a modification to allow a lot depth that already exists on both lots. So in terms of unique circumstance to analyze whether this modification should be granted or not, this already exists. This isn't adding to the conformity. There's no increase in density. It doesn't alter the character of what is already there. So with that, staff is recommending approval of ordinance number 1879, series 2024, which would approve the vacation of the drainage easement, and then resolution number 35, series 2024, which would approve the third replat of the enclave and then the new easements. Happy to take any questions if you have them, and again, the applicant is present.
Any questions from council of either the staff or the applicant? Pro Tem?
Sorry, clarification, it's two separate owners of these two lots or one owner of both lots?
It is one owner of both lots.
So they're not upset with themselves? They're not like fighting about it?
Who knows? Maybe.
Okay. And then I guess my only question is there a reason this is in front of us and not administrative? I mean, I think this is pretty easy. I don't want to assume anything, but what can you help me understand why something that seems to be so straightforward is in front of council?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of an administrative process for a minor subdivision. I think anything in our code requires that this be the process.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All right, first round of public comment. No public comment. Council questions? Nope. All right, second round of public comment. Does anybody speak now or forever hold your peace? Okay, any council comments on this?
Do you guys want to say anything? You got those drawings, you got stuff. Is there anything you want to let us know? Okay.
Right answer. Wrong question. No, it's nice that, thank you for coming tonight. All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion on ordinance number 1880?
I move that we approve, it's in the enclave, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I move that we approve ordinance number 1879, Series 2024, an ordinance approving the vacation of an existing drainage easement located on lots 3 and 4, Block 1 of the Enclave replat.
And I will second, go ahead.
No.
Sorry.
Do we do one at a time?
One at a
Right?
time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I second, given that I look at these lots every day.
Any comment, questions, discussion? Okay, then let's take a roll call, please.
Mayor Lay,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson,
Yes.
Councilmember Fahey,
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Yes.
Councilmember Bierman,
Yes.
Councilmember Kern.
Yes.
Okay, a motion passes. Do you want to take a whack at this?
Mayor, can I make a quick statement?
Sure.
Can I indulge you? So, I don't know if any of you know, but unfortunately, we're going to lose Amelia to Breckenridge. We're very angry at Breckenridge. Oh my gosh. Probably never going to ski there again.
Make a motion to deny.
Yeah,
100% deny and like somehow punish Breckenridge.
exactly.
Second.
Yeah.
Aye.
Let's close their ski area.
Yes. Sorry. It's out of my hands.
We lose the husband, we lose the wife,
Yeah.
and they're both going to
Yep.
Breckenridge, so we're going to lose them from.
So I just
Anyway.
want to say we hired her in 2017 when she was getting her PhD and basically paid her beer money from what I can tell. I don't even think it meets minimum wage. And she was with us for many years and we loved having her and
Wasn't enough to cover her beer.
it wasn't,
Just saying.
not here in Louisville, it wasn't enough, but it was amazing to get to know her over the years, I've got to say, and she really got interested in planning and has made it a career, even though that wasn't her focus. And we were really privileged to have her. We lost her for a while to another jurisdiction that shall not be named, and then we were able to lure her back, but not long enough. But we're all very excited for her next opportunity. I think it's a bit of a dream job to move up to the mountains for her, and we're going to miss her and all very excited for her.
So is this mean that we all have an invitation to stay in Breckenridge when we want to? I'm like assuming you want to be allowed to go.
Still in the middle of a hearing. Let's get back to the hearing, sorry.
For beer money, yes.
Thank you very much for all your great service to us. And thank you, Rob, for raising that at this time. All right, do you want to try the second? You want to make a motion on the second?
I move that we approve Resolution Number 35, Series 2024, a resolution approving the third replat of the Enclave and easement vacation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
You don't have to,
I think we need a roll call, don't we?
you don't have to do a roll call?
Oh, resolution.
It's a resolution.
Oh, it's
Okay.
an ordinance, yeah. Yay. Aye. Yeah.
All right, let's try that again. All in favor? Oh,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, congratulations. All right, I think I needed to close the public hearing, but I didn't do that. All right, so the next matter is appointment of two council members.
No. Number
I'm
1880.
jumping ahead. Sorry, the water, yeah, I got it. Ordinance number 1880, series 2024, an ordinance repealing section 13.12.105 to eliminate a water use rebate program, second hearing, or second reading, public hearing. Open the public hearing, start with a staff presentation.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Kim Baker. I'm the accounting manager, and we have an update to the City Water Assistance Program. So in background for the program, in 2007, City Council approved Resolution 1515, which established a $100 annual water use rebate program for Louisville residents over the age of 65 with combined annual household income of less than $25,000. No adjustments have been made to the rebate since then. Staff brought to the Finance Committee a request to modify it due to inflation. At the May 16th Finance Committee meeting, staff was requested to return to the future meeting with a program that didn't restrict age eligibility. So staff brought back on the June 20th Finance Committee meeting the recommended option to combine the city's program with the Sister Carmen Water Utility Assistance. While this will, hang on, sorry, this is new to me. So Sister Carmen is a well-respected nonprofit that has an existing utility assistance program. And we will eliminate the city-administered annual senior rebate program, but this is actually, using the Sister Carmen's is actually going to expand the program. So we currently fund Sister Carmen $14,500, of which $5,000 is earmarked for the residents for the water utility assistance. Moving to this Sister Carmen Assistance Program, the assistance program would be based on need, not aged or household income. The assistance program would be available year-round, and Sister Carmen has more resources and are able to connect persons to other available resources. And the proposal is to expand the Sister Carmen program by increasing the city-provided funding by $5,000. Of course, this is subject to City Council approval with budgetary appropriations, and eliminating the existing city-administered annual senior water rebate. There's a minimal financial impact to the city, but the program should reach many more people. And the City Council has the final authority to approve the adjustments. And here is Sister Carmen's contact information. And we have already been in contact with the Senior Rec Center that provides, so we have about 12 people right now that use it, and we've emailed them so that they're familiar that it's now going to be this, and the Senior Carmen Sister Carmen. And then we have given them all the information for all new people to become on board.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Any questions? No? Pardon me? Okay. All right. First round of public comments. Any public comments? All right. Council questions? Don't see any. Second round of public comment. Anybody? No. Council discussion?
Unless Councilmember Hamilton would like to go first.
Go ahead.
Okay. So thank you, Kim, for discussing this and bringing it forward. And I just wanted to thank the Finance Department and them bringing this to our attention that this actually program was in real dire need of improvement. When it was brought to the Finance Committee, it was you had to have less than $25,000 a year, I think, of income to be eligible for the assistance, which is beyond below meager. And so the ending of this program, it really is replacing it with something so much more substantial, as you were saying. I just want all of the residents in the community to know that Sister Carmen will do outreach to them. They can come to you. They can work with you on the phone. You don't have to if you're not capable of making it to their facility. They can assist the residents with this. And this should open up the assistance to a lot more residents in need, because there are still an awful lot of people in need. And I applaud the fact that we're allowing them to now also be part of a program that expands beyond just the utilities. As residents apply for this, there may be other services that they're also eligible to receive and help them even more. We had an opportunity to talk with the Sister Carmen representatives at the Finance Committee meeting, and they are really kind and wonderful to work with and will make this as easy as possible, and I think also reduce some of the lifting from our staff, which is really nice. So thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Beer.
Is this question time? I forget. I've lost track. So you're requesting an additional $5,000 contributing to the Sister Carmen. It shows that we're currently earmarking $5,000. Could we earmark that additional
I believe so.
$5,000 for Louisville residents?
I believe that was the, yes.
The addition, so 10,000 will be earmarked. Okay, I missed that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I am going to close. Barbara. Sorry. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you. I'm really, really proud of this program. I really am. Need is not based solely on age and income. And while I'm not particularly fond of the title of the ordinance, I think the intention behind it is phenomenal. As Councilmember Kern mentioned, we expand the number of individuals who can be positively impacted by tapping into the Sister Carmen system. And I'm really, really proud that our families in need in Louisville now have a resource, and our seniors can get more from this program financially, and also get more resources from Sister Carmen as a whole. So I'm just really proud of this. Thank you, staff, for coming back with this option when we tasked you to do so. I appreciate it a lot.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just checking. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can we get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 1880, series 2024, and ordinance repealing section 13.12.105 to eliminate a water use rebate program and replace it with a better one.
Second.
Okay, can we get a roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Lay?
Yes.
Councilmember Bierman?
Yes.
Councilmember Kern?
Yes.
Councilmember Fahey?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, and our final item of the night is appointment of two council members to conduct evaluations of municipal judge and prosecuting attorney. Interim Deputy City Manager, Ruth, why don't you take it away?
Good evening, everyone. The city council appoints four staff, well, contractors directly, and that is the city manager, and the city manager's review is done separately from this process, but the other three are the prosecuting attorney, the municipal judge, and the city attorney. And you do an annual review of all three of those people, or all three of those positions. Each of those positions is currently in the first year of a 2-year contract, so this is a chance for you guys to do a review, see if you have any comments, questions, things you want to do for them, for changes you'd like to ask them to make, feedback you'd like to give them for the following year. Part of the process would be to appoint two of you to attend court, not with a ticket, you just have to go, and review the, sitting through a court session and look at how the judge and the prosecutor handle their cases. So this evening we're asking for you to do that. Once you've appointed those two people, you will have 3 court sessions of options to go do your reviews. So that's the request of you this evening.
Thank you. I didn't talk to anybody in advance about this, but this is an awful lot of, actually it's a lot of fun, to be honest, because we've got good people. We've appointed good people, and they're all useful, and I need to make sure we get, I would suggest that we do 2 for each. That's the way we've, well, actually, I think probably, it probably, yeah, I know that's the way it's set up. I'm going to appoint Dietrich because he's not here. Yes. But who else?
Hold on, just to be clear, it's one court session, 2 people attending one court session, is that correct? Or are they attending each of the sessions?
No, there's three options, 3 chances for you to go between now and when this comes back to
You have
you.
to go
So
once,
it's one
Okay,
court session.
Yeah.
And you don't have to attend together if you don't like Dietrich.
And you can go more. It's actually,
I will volunteer.
all right.
It'll
So
scratch my
you and
legal
Dietrich-
itch. I went to law school. I can,
I will
dust off the diploma.
will appoint both of you. So I think we're good there.
Just one thing I'll say is that we do have a new prosecuting attorney, so be very interested to get your feedback and give them your feedback because, they are new. Judge Thrower's been there for a very long time, but this is a great year to learn something.
Very good. All right. City Attorney's report.
I have no report, thank you.
Are you sure?
I am sure.
Okay. I'm just double checking with everybody.
Am I forgetting something?
We're getting a lot of things just right under sliding right under the door here. Okay. Council comments, committee reports, and identification of future agenda items. Do we have any of those? Okay. Can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?